Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Hey, what's going on, all you scallywags out there? Welcome to your Sunday evening. Yeah, I know it's not 1 o'clock anymore. It's all the way in the evening now. Red Sox are back. Anyway, it's Reese on the radio, your weekend dose of your friendly neighborhood. Reese on the radio. Don't forget to always go to reeseontheradio.com. That's REESE on the radio.com. We got a lot of fun stuff there. Of course, this show airs there simultaneously when it airs here on WTIC and the Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app as well. I think Reese on the radio has an app. It's a weird thing. Anyway, I'll find out about it. Plenty of stuff to get into, plenty of news and plenty of views. A little bit of house cleaning I got to do in this break. So I might as well tell you, if you haven't been listening to the show all week, maybe there's a lot of stuff going on. You may have heard that we got something coming up on Wednesday. I'm incredibly excited about it. Between Rounds, our beautiful sponsor, is giving Reese on the radio his own sandwich, and it is the Reese's Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich. And to boot, to make it even more interesting, more fun, and giving, most importantly, every time you go to Between Rounds at any one of its 5 locations, they will give a $1 donation to my friends at the Friendly Hands Food Bank. So this is going to help families, and you get a great treat by having Between Rounds great service and great sandwiches, and to add to their repertoire, your very own Reese on the Radio Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich. So we're going to start that on Wednesday and for the rest of the month. So I hope that you'll take part of that, and if it's a success, if afterwards that it does so well that they want to do it next year, that would be great. And, we can find a way to keep that going so we can help out families and get everybody involved in Connecticut. So we got that going on. There was something else. Oh, got to give you a reminder. Speaking of the Red Sox coming back, a lot of the games in the beginning of the season, you may know, are during the day. And they happen roughly about 1 o'clock. Sometimes there are 3 o'clock games. And, of course, there are night games. But because there are a lot of day games during the day, Reese on the Radio will be preempted by Red Sox coverage. It's not a bad thing. It gives you an opportunity to do 2 things. 1, download the Odyssey app, or you can watch Reese on the Radio by going to reeseontheradio.com. When you go to reeseontheradio.com, now here's the cool thing. Any one of the social media pages that we broadcast on, you can broadcast and listen or broadcast and watch. What do I mean? On Rumble and YouTube, well, actually, it's only Rumble, I think. Actually, if you just drop out of the video, so like if you're driving and you want to listen, you could do the same thing as you do on the Odyssey app. You just link it to your car, and I think every car has Bluetooth now. And just link it to your car so you can listen to it. And you don't miss a thing. It's just like you're listening on the radio. Nothing against the Red Sox, but if you want to do both, maybe you can listen to the Red Sox game as well as listen to Reese on the radio. So you can do them both. So we have to make sure that we announce that so in the future. And I'll be giving you updates during the week to let you know, hey, we'll be on Odyssey or, we'll be back on the air. So don't fret. Reese on the Radio will get you posted. In this week's show, we've got to talk about where the Democrats are, why is it the Democrats can't figure out who their leader is, and why that's significant. Even though I don't think it's important. It sounds crazy, but it's significant and important to the Democrat Party. And I'll talk about that because it's a very weird thing. But anyway, we'll get into that as well. Plus, we'll talk about the Tesla Day of Rage, anger, contempt. We'll talk about that as well because there's supposed to be some 200 protests across the country. And how this whole thing panned out over the weekend is, I mean, I guess it's worth talking about. But I'm sure that many people were nervous, but not the people you think. And we'll talk about that. While I got you here, I want to address this real quick in the 5 minutes I have here. If you've heard in the news, the host of Real Time, Bill Maher, has made a lot of news for himself because he was one of the first guys to push back on the wacky woke liberal nonsense that he's seen. He's sort of been this like voice of reason. And he's noticed that his popularity has grown in conservative circles. And this has gotten him a lot of attention and a lot of money. Because when you're on the liberal side, when you're hardcore liberal screaming and hollering about woke this, woke that, and black this, black that, identity, everything, there's no money in it. You're doing what you're supposed to do. No one is flocking to you to buy that product. It's the way that they live. I'm not, what's the old saying? Why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? That's what liberalism is. If you're asking yourself why the movie Snow White did poorly, it's because Snow White and Disney did everything it was supposed to do to adhere to the woke left. Why pay for it? It did its job. That's how that works. Well, Bill Maher knows that there's no money in liberalism anymore. That's over. So where is the money? Wow, I'm piquing interest in conservatives. They spend money. And what's the old, based commentary about conservatives? Oh, all they care about is money. They're the ones with the disposable income. They could go on vacations. They're wealthy. Yeah, that's the based view on conservatives. So you go where the money is. There's no money in liberalism. There's no money in liberals. They don't spend money. They do not break their neck to protect their own. Bud Light, anyone? So Bill Maher has seen his stardom, his notability has risen as he is calling out the woke nonsense. And why? Because conservatives have taken notice. And by doing so, they're watching his show. He recognizes that. Fine, bank on it. I'm sure his people are telling him that. If he's got a manager, he goes, yeah, dude, this is doable. Your profile is rising. So he takes advantage of it. Now, let's get to where we are now. So he's made some off-color remarks about the president, Donald Trump. In fact, I do believe Donald Trump at one time tried to sue him on comments and things that he said. But now Bill Maher is going to the White House to go meet Donald Trump. Invitation of Kid Rock. And he's going to go. And many people are like, wow, he's going to go down there. Maybe Bill Maher is changing. No. Bill Maher is Bill Maher. And I've known Bill Maher a little more than 20 years now. I never told that. Maybe I shouldn't have told that. Bill Maher is not changing his mind. Bill Maher is changing his bank account. That's it. He's changing the zeros on his bank account. To go to the White House, to go meet with Donald Trump, is something Bill Maher's been never asked to do. Never. He's never been asked. He's never been a person important enough to say, hey, come to the White House. He had no relationship with Bill Clinton. He had no relationship with Barack Obama. He had no relationship with even W. He had none. He criticized anyone and everyone. He was toxic. And now he's got an opportunity to go. This, in the world of politics, legitimizes him. That's all this is about. You can bet. Watch. Mark my words. If you think he's going to do a 180 on the next episode of Real Time, watch. You'll see. You'll see. He'll play it down the middle, but nothing about that is real. I promise you. We'll take a break. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the Radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the Radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, we're back. One of my biggest issues growing up in Hollis, Queens, and this I don't think was only indicative of my atmosphere in Queens. If you were to ask a lot of black men my age, inside of 10 years, right? So I'm 55. So if you were to take a 45 to 60-year-old, I'm actually, so now let's go even higher than that. I'm going to say 50 to 60 with me right in the middle, 5 years in either direction. If you were to talk to a black man who had lived in Hartford, Bridgeport, Hollis, Jamaica, Queens, and you had asked him, how often do you hear the word leader when talking about politics? And every one of them, there would be no 9 out of 10, no 8 out of 10. 10 out of 10 would tell you they know of or have had a conversation where someone has addressed a leader in the African-American community. It is mainstay. And when I was growing up, I was always fighting with someone about that term, black leader. I hated it. And people didn't even understand where I was coming from. I couldn't articulate it as a kid. But again, this is one of those things where I don't know whether or not I was pushing back for the sake of pushing back. Like sometimes you just want to play devil's advocate because you know it ticks people off. You get the rise out of them. But truthfully, on the argument of black leader, it drove me nuts. And I went, what do you mean black leader? I've never, ever understood why that was necessary in the black community. Probably for this reason. And I know that a lot of you are going to go, yup. My mother always raised me not to be a follower, be a leader. So when someone told me that we needed a quote-unquote black leader, I always said, why would I need someone to lead me? I'm a leader. I'm not a follower. I thought it was a bad thing to be a follower. Why do we need to follow a black leader? That was that was my biggest problem. I was like, that doesn't make sense. We're told every day, be a leader. Now you're telling us we can't get our political lives in order without having somebody direct us? Something's rotten here. And it's always bugged me that grown people always talk about our leader, our leader, our leader, our leader. And I go, who gets to decide who the leader is? Who gets to decide not only who the leader is, but how does he get to decide for us what our agenda is? How does he get to tell us what we believe in, what we don't believe? I never understood that. Now, for those of you on the left who are probably saying, and rightfully so, well, Reese, don't you have Republican leaders? Yes. How do I feel about them? I don't listen to them. I don't. I never use the term, we need more leaders. No. I say we need a coalition. I say we need people who are fighting the fights that are important to us as a coalition. Some people in our party may not go along with that. Some people in our race may not go along with that. This is the reason why I don't believe in leaders. Because if that person is the leader, that person gets to wake up one day and say, you know what? This is what we're fighting for. Everybody get on board. And then what happens when you're not for this? Wait a minute, something about this seems wrong. This seems foolhardy. Why am I going in this direction? What is the leadership going to say when I don't go along? Am I going to be ostracized? Am I going to be somebody who's called a traitor? And all I'm going to do is ask is, wait a minute, why do you get to decide that this is the issue? And how do we know that that issue is either morally right or just fundamentally right? I mean, if I look at the Democrat Party today, and if the leadership is telling me that we are all for mutilating our children, because that's what they tell us, if we're for men and women's sports, that's what they tell us, who is the leadership telling us to go down this completely bonkers road? Who's the leader? And now you have people sit up here saying that, according to people in the party, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the leader. Or is it Jasmine Crockett? Or is it Chuck Schumer? Or is it Hakeem Jeffries? And I'm sorry, people on the left, you can be mad as you want. But if there was ever a madcap group of people who I wouldn't let them lead me to water, much less politically, it would be those four bozos. Is that five? 1, 2, 3. No, just four. None of them. Hakeem Jeffries? Really? Why is Hakeem Jeffries not the leader? He's never been the leader of your party. Never. At all. You guys got behind Nancy Pelosi, but she had plenty of years to earn your trust. She walked you folks. Trust me, when I say Nancy Pelosi earned your trust, a woman who is a devout Catholic told you it was okay to kill your babies and still held the Bible in her hand. Still went to church every day. Kill your babies. She convinced you of both. She convinced the entire party that you could be Catholic and abort your child. That's a leader. I'm sorry, it just is. A good leader, no, but a leader nonetheless. Why doesn't Chuck Schumer have that charisma? He's been there just as long. Doesn't have it. Anybody ever wonder why? And Jasmine Crockett, you can forget about that. I mean, she might be able to lead you to the best beauty salon in the neighborhood. She could probably tell you the best chicken and grits you could get anywhere in the restaurant. But that woman is no leader. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a couple of years ago, that woman had never seen a garbage disposal before. So listen to these folks. If you wonder why they don't know who their leadership is, because they don't even know what direction they're in anymore. They don't know which direction to go.
Who would you say is the leader of the Democratic Party right now?
I think there's a lot of discontent.
Who do you think is the new leader of the Democrat Party?
Nobody. There isn't one.
Who would you consider the leader of the Democrat Party right now?
AOC.
Would you consider Chuck Schumer it?
No.
Ma'am, who do you think is the leader of the Democrat Party? Would you consider Chuck Schumer the leader?
No.
The leader of the Democratic Party to... Wow, that's a tough call.
And I got to tell you, folks, I listened to that. That's lost. Those are people who cannot think for themselves. That's bad. They're looking around. It's like you see them standing there looking left to right. I don't know. I know. All I know is that I'm angry, but I don't know who the leader is. No one, not one of them thought to say, we don't need one. Not one of them. That's the reason why when you listen to these folks, they keep saying, well, Donald Trump, you do whatever he tells you. No, we don't. You ever listen to Donald Trump? He says, we, us, and our. He never says me, my, or I. Never. Unless, of course, he's talking about himself. But when he's talking about this country and he talks about his agenda, nope. Talks about we, us. Never about me, my, and I. Never. That's the reason why these folks need leaders. I mean, what would they wouldn't know what to think without them. They couldn't think on their own. That's what mind-numb robots do. That's what zombies do. They are led. They are told what to think. They are told what to say. I believe in it. I will follow directions. I will not defer. It's sad, but it's true. Take a break? Yeah, let's take a break. We'll be back. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the Radio News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Look, I got to be honest with you. I'm never going to be an electric car fan. Just not. I'm not, and I don't care how cool the Tesla vehicle is. And again, I'm not a hater of Elon Musk. I like him. It took me a long time to come on board. A lot of people like, and we're talking before the sort of endorsement of Donald Trump, before, he was even in that space. I kind of looked at Elon Musk as like, I hedged. I was just like, let me see what this guy does. Like, what's he about? I don't know if he's like the Bond villain or some weirdness because, he wants to put chips in people's brains and things like that gave me apprehension. I was apprehensive, as many people were. And I like him now. Don't get me wrong. I like him not because he's withdrawn. I started liking him before, and it's well documented. Started liking him before the Donald Trump thing, way before. And because he was just saying certain things. He was doing certain things. And I want to say it was right around Twitter. It had to have been around then. And again, the left has a way of hating somebody so much that you, as a sensible person, you like them. They turn you off so much of their hatred of a person that you start to say, okay, now I need to find out why I might like him. And I started talking to him. I couldn't understand what the hatred was. Twitter, clearly, that made everybody nuts. And, okay, fine. It was easy to hate on him. Now, the Tesla thing is interesting. And look, I love the exposure that the protests to Tesla is giving the left when it comes to climate change. Because I don't know if they know that this is killing that debate. And I don't even think that they know it's going to be hard to come back from protesting the business. Like, they're going to have to now start promoting Prius or whatever electric cars out. Like, somebody else has to come out of the fold. I wish the Democrats had a backup. They don't. They do not have an electric car that has the dominance in that space the way Tesla does. So when the climate activists who have now, become silent, where do you see them? Anybody? They talk about environmentalism, but they don't talk about climate change. You got a couple of bozos on CNN talking about it here and there. I think, what's that guy named? Bill Weir or something is a climate correspondent. You got a couple of them here and there. But you know what? The argument is going to push back and just going to say, well, we'd love to help the environment, but don't want to buy one of those Tesla cars, that could be detrimental to my health. And this is, so for me, let me put it this way, for me, and I don't know if there are anybody, I haven't even talked to enough people about this to even bring it up, but I really want to know, are people really that upset that electric vehicles, even Teslas for that matter, may be difficult to build in the country? I mean, the likelihood that these protesters shut down Tesla, keep people from buying them, has a Bud Light effect, where it's a struggling company that, scales itself back, has to raise its price just to make ends meet. It fires a lot of people. Again, I know this sounds harsh, but it's like, Reese, what about the people they're going to lose their jobs? Democrats are making sure these progressive activists, they're going to get what they want. They're going to shut this company down. They're going to affect the richest man in the world because, how dare he go after the sacred cow that is the government? They're going to shut down this electric car company, popular, successful electric car company, destroy the shareholders, destroy the jobs of American workers, destroy maybe even the electric car industry as a whole. And then they've got nothing. For me, I just want the whole thing to be shut down. I don't want to hear another damn thing about the environment, global warming, sunspots, solar. I don't want to hear a damn thing about it at all. I don't want another debate about going carbon neutral. I don't want to hear another debate about my carbon footprint. I don't want to see Al Gore on television. I don't want meteorologists talking smack about wildfires or gusting winds being a part of some climate catastrophe. I don't want to hear it. Because the one thing that mattered most, right? We're supposed to get all off of gas-powered engines. We were all supposed to go electric. And sure enough, the American people found a product that they can get behind. There was a likelihood, at least with the numbers growing, that every American in the country who wanted one could get a Tesla. And the more they made them, the cheaper they would get. And then everybody would have one, and they would be driving around with the robot driving for them, and traffic would be clear, and people wouldn't be angry on the roads. Oh, it would be utopia. But then they did the one thing. He did the one thing that would disrupt all of it, that would throw a grenade in all of that, and that is bother with the federal government and how it spends its money. And now there are a bunch of people, think about it, government acolytes, regular people who are government actors defending the status quo in Washington. 200,000 protests across the country fighting for government rule, saying that it's about the workers. They want more. You don't want anybody fired. Doesn't matter they're finding out that computer systems have been there since the 70s. No, don't touch it. Keep it there. We need government running, not efficiently, running. That's what they're standing for. And these people, if you ask the news media, these people are the righteous ones. The rest of us who want our money back, who deserve their money to come back into our pockets so that we can live free, or even better, we could pay for things that we couldn't pay for in the last 4 years. There are people in Washington on television, and now your neighbors are out protesting, saying no, fighting against their own best interests. You think about that. You think about some of those people out there are your neighbors fighting against a group in DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. They are fighting against that group and the president getting your tax dollars and giving you a DOGE dividend check, if they could, of $5,000 back to your pockets. Hey, man, sorry for the trouble. You deserve this for what you had to put up for the last 4 years. There are your neighbors who are out there fighting against that. They're saying it'll never happen. Some of them are hoping it never happens, rooting against you, your bills, your debt, whatever's going, they're rooting against it, and they are trying to make sure he, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump are gone. That's what these people out there fighting for. It's crazy. I know it doesn't make any sense. I know the people who listen to the show who might be on the left, I know that they frown on this, but they're scared. People on the left, they're scared. They're scared that these protests are going to turn into something that's going to ruin their party forever. Like, the hatred is so mind-numbingly stupid. that something goes off and the party never recovers. They're scared to death. They're scared that something's going to make January 6th look like, I don't know, a street fight in the Bronx. It's going to be bad. We'll take a break. We'll wrap this puppy up. When we return, it's Reese on the Radio, News Talk, 1080 WTIC.
It's Reese on the Radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
All right, we're back. We're about to wrap this puppy up, and I made a promise that I was going to say happy birthday to our good friend, caller, and supporter of the show, Lori in Glastonbury. I want to show her her love. She deserves it. Happy birthday. I hope it was a splendid one. I hope you did anything and everything you possibly could with your family. Had a great dinner, if not a great lunch. Maybe you hung out with the girlfriends. Maybe you watched some baseball. Lori's big into baseball, so I'm sure she had a ball there. Maybe she went to a game like I did. I hope, John, maybe we'll ask her on Monday, see what she did for her birthday. We'll get a report on that. Speaking of listeners and supporters of the show, I got this email. I meant to bring it up during the week, but I said, you know what? I'll save it for Sunday show. And the reason why I saved it, if you've listened to my Sunday shows, you probably notice a pattern. Of course, I talk about politics and pop culture and all of that stuff. But I always leave the last talk break, as we call it here in Radio Land. I always leave this break to talk about something personal, usually something that I'm either going through, I've experienced, or am experiencing currently. And I don't always like to keep it on politics. I don't always want it, but, that's just the way that life is. But on this show, I always try to draw something back to my own experience and share it with you, and maybe you've had some experience like this. This one in particular, not a lot of people have had, but or had to deal with, but they've probably heard this before. So I get this email from a guy to whackfm.com, and it's reseontheradio.com, but my wasn't me. And this guy sends me this email, and it's a very, how do I put it, smug email about politics. Clearly, he does not like Donald Trump. Clearly, he's on the left. I mean, I don't even know whether or not he would admit that he is on the left, but he clearly doesn't like Donald Trump. And when I get into these debates with some of these people, they always have the same line in their missive about me and Donald Trump. Let me read you the line. Quote, Donnie doesn't give a ish about you, me, or anything other than thinking that the grift is in full motion. Now, when I hear this, do you know rapper Eminem pretty much said that same line? I don't understand it. He doesn't give a ish about you. That seems to be the line that everybody uses when talking to people who support him. In order to get them to stop supporting Donald Trump, they use the line, he doesn't give a ish about you. Can I tell you where that's from? Let me explain to this young man. I don't even know what his name is. I think it's Mustang something. I don't know. I'm not going to give up his email address or anything like that. He probably doesn't want to out it. He didn't want to call the show. He says in his email he didn't want to call the show because he said I'll just be dismissive. So he wants me to email him back. I'm not going to do that. I'll just address it here. There's a reason why Eminem and others use that line. And it is because of Barack Obama. I would even go so far back is to say it's because of George W. Bush, but it's not. What do I mean? So back in the George W. Bush days, when George W. Bush was running for re-election against John Kerry. I was about to say Mitt Romney. John Kerry. Many people were talking about that George W. Bush is the president you could have a beer with. He's the guy I'd most likely have a beer with. People made a big deal out of that. That George W. Bush seemed more relatable. And that was about him being a C student, very average, kind of a goober. And John Kerry was too highbrow. And that's what part of what won the appeal of the voter was that George W. Bush was likable. September 11th didn't hurt, and the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War didn't hurt either. But forget about all that. Barack Obama was something entirely different to the electorate. I'll tell you this story as to why I know. I'm in New Hampshire, Manchester, New Hampshire, in February of 2008. I want to say it's the middle of the month, probably about 15th to the 18th, something like that. I'd just gotten off of a train, an Amtrak train from New York to Boston, and we were supposed to drive from Boston to New Hampshire. It's about an hour drive. We get there and we go to start, talking to people. I think Barack Obama was speaking at the Palace Theater in Manchester. And my producer, Cooksey, and I get there. And we know we're not going to get an interview or an impromptu interview with Barack Obama. But we wanted audio of the audience and talk to them about the appeal of Barack Obama. And we got this one young girl. It was the first election she was ever going to participate in. She couldn't have been 20 years old. And she was surrounded by a bunch of young boys who were clearly there because they were inspired by the possibility of a first African-American president. They were young black men. They were all seemed to be dressed in like a sweater vest with like our sweaters with the V-cut with a shirt and tie. They all seemed dressed the same, like they had all come from the same parochial school. But this young woman was, surrounded by these guys, and she was there, and we were interviewing her, and she was absolutely overjoyed. She was shaking at how excited she was to have seen the speech of Barack Obama. And many people stood there and watched this as we interviewed her and how excited she was. I think every reporter out there had her on the news that day. They were going to use that footage of that young lady as evidence of the enthusiasm for him. But the thing that young lady said was that he cares about me. He cares about all of us. He has to be president because he cares about all of us and our future. And I got it. I went on the air the next day and I said, folks, we're going to lose. I said to all of my Republican listeners, we're going to lose. There's no way. John McCain does not inspire the way that Barack Obama does. Because Barack Obama, again, even though he does a lot of me, I, and my, but remember what Hope and Change is about. He's an inspirational figure. You get the impression that he does care about you. He's one of you. That's an incredible appeal. And see, Barack Obama was never a millionaire. And people like this guy who emailed me, he thinks that millionaires and billionaires couldn't possibly understand the average person. Barack Obama, just a guy who went to Occidental and Columbia and Harvard and has made millions of dollars before he even got into the Oval Office. He cares. Barack cares, but not Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he doesn't care about you. The thing is, silly, I don't give a damn if my politician, my president, cares about me. He's not there to care for me. He's not my mommy, my daddy, my uncle, my titi. He is my servant. He is there to do my bidding. He's there to go and do the things I sent him there to do. He does not care for me. He does what I care about. That's how that works. You bozos are never going to get that. No matter how hard you try, you're never going to get it. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your minds. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You have a good rest of your weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.